those who are stakeholders and players in this arena, this to be the most monumental subject of the hour. What does it mean for a developing country like Pakistan? Yes, it's a developing country and at the same time the 5th most populous country. Our energy needs, our requirements will be ever growing. Are we planning and are we in a secure place for the future that is literally, at our edge? So ladies and gentlemen, a couple of great news that we've been hearing in the news. If I go back to the newspapers, there are more than 15 billion US dollars that Chinese investors are happy to and ready to invest in the petrochemical industry of Pakistan. As the Board of Investment had apprised earlier, there are 50 reforms in the industry. This news dates back to 2018 under the dynamic leadership of the present governments, working towards 50 reforms that will make the environment more conducive for all players and will attract foreign direct investment. These investments are perhaps aimed at connecting the Gwadar port with Western China and fulfill the demands of the present and the future. How do we work towards that? Our eminent speakers will perhaps, this subject and many more will come into play today. So let's get started. The first welcome note is by the Honorable Minister of State and the Chairman of Board of Investment. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Muhammad Asfar Ehsan.
Thank you, Sidra. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Federal Minister for Finance and my mentor, Mr. Shaukat Tareen. SAPM on CPEC Affairs, Mr. Khalid Mansoor. The President of Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce Industry, Mr. Ghayas Khan. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Korea in Pakistan. My friend, Sajid Aslam of ACCA, the Global Policy Head. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press and media, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. On behalf of Corporate Pakistan Group and Board of Investment, I'm very grateful to all of you for your presence here at the first ever Pakistan Petrochemical Symposium. Today, I'm wearing two hats, actually. One is the founder of Corporate Pakistan Group, which is a group of 350 leaders from all over Pakistan and outside Pakistan. There are corporate and business leaders, parliamentarians, members of the armed forces, academia, energy experts, tech experts, diplomats, police officers, the actual national intelligentsia of Pakistan. And 6 years back, we started this Corporate Pakistan Group. And Alhamdulillah, today this is the most influential virtual group in Pakistan. So we are hosting our meetings in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and Dubai on regular basis. We hosted over 100 dialogues, conferences, and networking dinners in the last 6 years. And we also contributed to the society in the field of health and education. My second head is the Minister of State and Chairman Board of Investment. And our mandate is to facilitate investors in Pakistan, the existing investors, the local and foreign investors, as well as to attract FDI in Pakistan. Petrochemical is one area where Government of Pakistan is working very seriously, and multiple meetings hosted by the Ministry of Industries in the last few months. And hopefully in the near future, the petrochemical policy will be announced after the complete consultation. Mr. Khalid Mansoor is here. He's also the part of this committee. Khusro Bakhtiar is chairing this committee. The Ministry of Commerce is here, and other relevant stakeholders are also part. And we are expecting around $3 billion investment in the near future, in the next 2 to 3 years. There are 5 active players in Pakistan working for this industry and willing to invest more and to expand their existing projects, including Lotte, ICI, Agrochemical, Agro Corporation, Tufail Chemical, and Getron. At Board of Investment, our role is to propagate this industry. And that's why we are hosting this dialogue with the industry leaders. And I'm grateful to our Finance Minister, Mr. Shaukat Tareen, and Khalid Mansoor, who are here. And later, Mr. Asad Umar and other ministers will also join us in the other sessions. My dear friends, the Board of Investment, Government of Pakistan, besides its core function as the apex investment promotion agency of Pakistan, is mandated to facilitate industrialization, materialize export potential, encourage diversification in knowledge-based sectors, and enhanced a new level of global economic connectivity through effective policy advocacy and investment facilitation. In this context, I would like to accentuate that there is a dire need for the development of a comprehensive petrochemical policy for Pakistan. Pakistan mainly depends upon oil and gas resources to fulfill energy requirements. Indigenous resources of oil are not enough to meet the requirements of a growing economy. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan Oil Companies Advisory Council, OCAC, which constitutes all of oil refineries and downstream oil marketing companies, estimates that demand for petroleum products will rise at a robust rate of 10% per annum for the next 5 years. Therefore, need of the hour to enhance investments with foreign oil companies, refineries, and the upstream and downstream sectors for the rapid development in petroleum products exports of the sector. My dear friends, I want to draw your attention towards the absence of a naphtha petrochemical cracker complex in the country. And today, our downstream industry of Pakistan is dependent on imports. Pakistan's imports bill on petroleum products and petrochemicals runs into 18 to 20 billion annually, as about 75% of the country's demand is met through imports from Middle Eastern countries, especially from Saudi Arabia. My friend Mubashir Al-Asiri is here from Saudi Arabia, is the commercial head of Saudi and Pakistan, and we are working very closely with the Saudi government and their embassy and their investors to bring FDI in Pakistan. So my dear friends, availability of naphtha cracker can make the local chemical sector a self-reliant industry in the country. Collaborative experience with world's multinational players in the petrochemical sector could be very useful for promoting the industry in Pakistan. A single naphtha cracker complex would help in setting up a host of downstream industries and contribute significantly to the economic outlook of Pakistan. Estimates suggest that a naphtha cracker would have an impact of $2 to $3 billion in import substitution and lead to increase in consumption. It would generate 50,000 to 60,000 jobs besides providing chemicals and raw materials to several industries in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's economy is moving progressively on higher inclusive and sustainable growth path on the back of various measures and achievements during the past few years. I'm happy to share with you that OICCI, Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has recently conducted a survey to get perspectives from the foreign investors community, which represents 14 key sectors of the economy, and there are 207 multinationals. According to the survey, Pakistan's current business environment is ranked better or same that in the 6 regional countries. The trend has also improved as compared to 2019 survey of OICCI. Foreign investors are largely positive on several business climate parameters in Pakistan. OICCI members forecast healthy growth of the respective business entities in Pakistan. On overwhelming 80% of respondents willing to recommend a new FDI in Pakistan. 2 weeks back, we hosted meeting OICCI Managing Committee under the chair of Prime Minister. We have Mr. Khalid Mansoor, Mr. Shaukat Tareen were also there. And Prime Minister also advised some policy measures, especially for the continuation of policies in different sectors. My dear friends, IMF has also acknowledged that the government policies have been critical in supporting the economy and saving lives and livelihoods. The IMF and Pakistan have announced the resumption of a stalled $6 billion loan program. During the year, all three major credit rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's, reaffirmed the sovereign credit ratings for Pakistan. The reaffirmation is reflective of the sound policies of the government of Pakistan under the able leadership of Prime Minister Imran Khan, and of the confidence reposed by these leading international institutions in the country's economic outlook. Let me conclude by assuring you all that Government of Pakistan is committed to encourage indigenous production of petrochemical products. As Chairman Board of Investment, Government of Pakistan, I assure my best facilitation and assistance for your investments in the petrochemical sector in Pakistan. And today's dialogue, today's symposium is one evidence in this direction. Our dedicated team of Board of Investment, our foreign missions, and our embassies are all open for support in your investment endeavors. I also want to share with you, majority of you are very, very dear friends. I joined this government 3 months back as the Chairman Board of Investment. I'm not a political person, I'm not a bureaucrat. I'm completely an apolitical person and a concerned Pakistani. And I personally believe, because I came from the corporate sector in the last 22 years, I was engaged with the whole corporate sector of Pakistan. I was working in Pakistan and globally as well. And this is my personal belief and observation that in majority areas, the Prime Minister Imran Khan's policies are in the right direction. We are working with China. Mr. Khalid Mansoor is here. He's working very hard on the China affairs. Our Board of Investment is working very hard. And in multiple sectors, what I observed, that we are in the right direction. For the betterment and for the complete transformation and the restructuring of this country, the large country of 30 million individuals, there is no overnight solution for any government, for any organization. So I personally believe, as a concerned Pakistani, that continuation of political government for full 5 years term is mandatory for the prosperity and the progress of Pakistan. And this is beneficial for all concerned. We are available 24/7 at Board of Investment. My team is available for all of you for any pain point you are facing or any investment lead. We are here with you 24/7 to facilitate you with all the concerned stakeholders. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Mr. Ehsan. And of course, this is very reassuring. As we already know, the comprehensive policy to further facilitate this industry is under works. And just as you reiterated, in the medium term, this could actually result in an import substitution of close to $800 million per annum, generate further employment for 50,000 Pakistanis, and indeed a $50 billion per annum tax collection. So this in itself is proof that we need to be working towards that. But ladies and gentlemen, as in the beginning we were talking about the shift in geopolitical realities, a key impact of the recent events is a very persistent, if not permanent, shock in the supply of oil and gas around the world. How will Pakistan navigate through that, and what is in the works? How are the policy makers actually designing the framework? Our next speaker is the best person to comment on it. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming, on the subject of investment and industrialization are critical to sustain economic growth, the Honorable Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue. Please welcome Mr. Shaukat Tareen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chairman BOI, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this August seminar and symposium. I think it's a very good initiative by all the organizers, because I believe it is important for us that we have a roadmap. Whenever we have been discussing, what kind of steps should we be taking, I think the investors and people who are already in Pakistan, Overseas Chamber, Pakistan Business Council, and the others, they've always reminded us that there is no medium to long-term, planning. I mean, we do not have policy framework which can guide them for investments. And when they make long-term investments, they obviously need, guidance from the government, what they plan to do. So today's topic obviously is petrochemicals, and I know nothing about it. So I'm going to admit that and not bore you with my written speech, which was written by some bureaucrat. So I am going to just get back and do what I think I do best, which is I will tell you where is the economy and how are we moving the economy forward, and that should interest you, because unless you do not have a robust economy with a decent growth rate, I think you cannot make those decisions which you plan to make. So let's start, looking at where we are today. But just to give you a historical background, in the 60s, we were the fourth largest economy in Asia. We were bigger than South Korea, twice as big as, Saudi Arabia and Thailand. And we were only, obviously second to Japan, China, India. And so what went wrong? What went wrong? We had a massive nationalization in 72, 73, followed by another, misadventure when the military dictator of those times, put us into this Afghan war in 1979. It was not our war, but we went into that and suffered, because there were millions of Afghanis which came to Pakistan, and we kept fighting till, it ended in 1987, 88. But by then, we were deep into the war, and frankly, the Mujahideens and others who obviously had fought the war were left with us, just like a big bag which we had to hold, and everybody else left. And so what did we do? For the next 10 years, we obviously dealt with that situation till, we went to another, kind of war, which was the 2001 war on terror. And all that, meant that we again lost another 10 years. So all these things meant that the Pakistan, economy suffered. We not only suffered casualties, we also suffered, economic losses. And then we obviously had a democratic government come again, in 2008. 2008 to 2018, I would say uneventful, kind of economic performance, because even in those years, we did not fix the kind of, structural imbalances, structural flaws which we had. And all through this period, which is I would say 25 to 30 years, since 2019, 72, 73, we just kept building, we kept on, kind of living with the structural imbalances. And what were the structural imbalances? Structural imbalances were that our tax to GDP was pathetic. It was, always hovered around 10%, which is not enough to meet, not only the current expenditure, but also the development expenditure. We, of course, had a mismatch between our exports and our imports. That would always put pressure on us. But another structural imbalance which continues even today is the saving rate. Unless you have a saving rate which can support 6 to 8% growth rate, which means that your saving rate should be north of 25%. We always had a saving rate which hovered around between 13% to maybe 18%. So not good enough to to sustain a growth rate of 6% plus. Then we also, the productivity in our industrial sector, once, the investments stopped, because after nationalization, who the hell would just invest in Pakistan, because they were not even treated very well once the nationalization took place. So productivity went down. Agriculture, we just ignored. We thought this is a given, that we will produce wheat, we will produce, other food items. So it was given. So we never focused on improving the productivity of the agriculture sector. So guess what? We are food short as of now. We are a food deficit country as of now. So no structural changes, etc. And in comes, PTI government in 2018, faced with a current account deficit of $20 billion, had to pay another $10 billion in foreign currency loans, and went around, trying to gather money from friends. Well, they helped us, but not good enough, so we basically had to go to the IMF. IMF, as you know, has a cookie-cutter approach. They like to take out the demand from the economy. That at that stage, the economy was growing at around 6% on the rebased basis, and they just basically took the demand out, and we just, within a year, we just, our growth rate dropped to around 3%. What did they do? They, depreciated the rupee, they increased the discount rate, they just slapped, higher utility payments. Now, all that meant that we actually had to slow down the economy so that the demand, extra demand, which was creating problems for us, had to go away. So, well, the government was trying its best, and I think it was trying its best to cope with this situation till, they face another major crisis, and that's COVID-19. So COVID-19 came in 2019. And during that period, I would say that I must give full credit to the Prime Minister and his imaginative way of handling that COVID, whereby we probably ranked one of the top 3 in the response to COVID and the way we responded. And he kept on investing in agriculture, kept on investing in industry and exports, and kept on investing in housing. And by the way, housing was a new area because Pakistan's, mortgage to GDP was 0.25%, when he took over, power. Why? Because the foreclosure law was defective, banks would not lend, and so we were one of those countries actually not using, the construction sector productively. So I am a banker, I know that we kept trying, and because he has a lot of perseverance, so he just fixed the foreclosure law, and industry, started, to yield some results. So by 2021 June, the economy actually, the surprise of everybody, was growing at 5.6%. Not bad at all, because a year before that, it had a negative growth of 1%, like every other country in the world. But the V curve was around 6.6%. That's great. That's when I just joined the government, and then we decided that no, we are now going to grow the economy because we have a major problem that our employment. We need employment. So we need something happening here. Oh, okay. So we needed a growth, but we said that we will have inclusive and sustainable growth. And because we never had sustainable growth, so every 3-4 years when we would grow, the economy will fall, we'll go to the IMF.